Hi, do you struggle to set long-term goals and achieve them? I really used to, and I came up with a system that I like that uses goals and to-do lists to achieve big things. In this video, I'm going to walk you through it. Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm an artist, videographer, and photographer, and I struggled throughout my career before I became an artist and as an artist to set big goals. I'm a dreamer, I think, by nature, and it always seemed like my goals just never got done. So I started reading books, talking to experts, watching YouTube videos, and none of the ideas really worked for me. So instead of being defeated, I sat back and started borrowing from places and coming up with my own system. And I don't think any of these ideas are revolutionary, but the way I put it together works for me, and I'm going to walk you through it in this video. This is going to be a two-part video. In the first one, I'm going to cover goal setting. In the second, I'll cover my to-do list system. In this video, we're going to cover a few things. One, we're going to cover my three-tier system. I've got long, mid, and short-term goals, and that system works really well for me, and they nest and build on each other. We're going to talk about why goals are important, and also how to stay on track. I've struggled a lot with staying on track in the past, and I've come up with a way to hold myself accountable and get some external help in doing that. And it's helped me a lot in achieving big goals. First, I want to talk about why goals are important. If you look at the leaders in any field, whether it's people in business or sports athletes or actors or artists, they had a plan to get where they are. They just didn't go out and say, hey, I'm going to do a little bit better tomorrow. They wanted to be a CEO or a star athlete or in the Olympics or represented by a giant gallery or on a major record label. That was their goal. And if we want to achieve big things, we need big goals. And that's kind of what we're going to cover today. And also the structure on how to get there. One of my favorite quotes from a famous person about goals comes from Stephen King, and I've seen this several places. I don't know what the original source was, but apparently Stephen King set a goal to write at least 1,000 words a day or more. And that's a lot. That's like 5 typed pages. And I don't know if you've done any writing, but if you're doing creative writing, that's quite a bit. It's an aggressive goal. And thanks to setting hard goals like those, Stephen King is probably the best known horror writer of our time. In my experience, people rarely exceed their goals. So, if you decide you're going to be the best local artist you can be, you're probably not going to get to the national level. The things that you need to do to get to the highest levels aren't the same things you need to do to get to lower levels. So we're going to cover that structure here in just a second. Another big benefit of goals is the satisfaction of checking them off. I am really hard on myself, and I never feel like I'm putting in 100% of my effort. I never feel like I'm working hard enough, putting in enough hours, until I take a look at my goal lists and see how much I've checked off, how many of those are big, had substantial amount of effort, and then I feel a lot better. Checking those things off is deeply satisfying and a wonderful way to keep yourself motivated. One very important feature as we go forward on goal setting is they need to be specific and measurable. You don't want to say, I want to lose weight. Say, I want to lose 10 pounds or whatever the number is. Don't say, I want to do better at work. Look at a specific promotion or a specific metric. Saying that I want to be a successful artist is hard to measure and hard to build towards, but saying I want to get into a specific gallery or a specific class of gallery, or I want to show out of town, it has to be specific or it's really hard to build the supporting goals to get there. The first tier of goals is my long-term goals. These are the big ones. These often take years to complete. I'll give you a story about one that took me almost a decade, maybe a little more than a decade actually, now that I'm thinking about it. These should be hard, stretch goals, I've heard them called. You don't want to say, I just want to get a painting done. That's not a big goal. This is a place to really challenge yourself. I'm going to start with one of mine, an example that I've completed. Out of high school, I did not go into the art world. Despite doing art and music all through school and that really being my interest, I succumbed to the pressure from my parents and I went into a technical school. I was going to be a scientist. And that worked up until about Calc 2 when I really lost interest and left school and decided I was going to go into tech. Fortunately for me, I interviewed really well, did some lower end tech jobs, and eventually got to work for a big multinational technology company, a big manufacturer. Worked there for 14 years. And I loved the people I worked with. I loved the people I worked for. I even believed in the product, but the job itself was not fun. It just wasn't fulfilling. And as I was going in there every week and not liking what I was doing, I decided that I really needed to get back to art if I wanted to be happy. So I set a goal of getting a 4-year degree. Well, at that point, one unfortunate thing about having a successful career is your bills tend to rise up to meet the money that you're making. And mine had. I was spending almost everything that I made. So I realized I was going to need a strategy. The first thing I did was set a goal to contain my budget, to get it down to a lower level so I could afford to go back to school. So I started canceling subscriptions that I didn't need. I started cooking for myself a lot more and eating out a lot less, which saved a lot of money, and just trying to make savvy money decisions so I could afford school. Once I got that all taken care of and it saved quite a bit, the next step was figuring out how I could go to school. Well, in my city, there are 2 universities that have art programs, but neither of them can be done at night. And at that point, I still needed my day job to pay my bills. So I looked at a 2-year technical college that was near me that had an art program. And strangely, a lot of the people that taught there also taught at one or the other of the 2 major universities in town. So I decided I was going to go get a 2-year degree. All of those credits would transfer to a major institution. So it seemed like a good start, and it was quite a bit less expensive. So I did that. One class at a time, I got a 2-year degree. It took me 6 years, but I got through it, got straight A's through the entire program, including the non-art classes. I was really proud of myself. And I did that all while working a 40-hour-a-week day job. Got to the end of that, and I really couldn't immediately figure out how I was going to do the 4-year degree because most of the classes weren't offered at night. So I decided, you know what, this is a big problem. I need to save money, so that's where I'm going to start. So I started saving and got to the point where I had a decent amount of money, had a little money come in from outside, had a chat with my wife, and we decided it was now or never. I'm not getting younger, and I wanted to get that degree taken care of. So I left the workforce and went back to school full time for 2 years. Again, got straight A's, and it took about 10 years end to end, but I did get through a 4-year art degree, and I learned a lot, and it's really set me up for my art career that I have today. I did a video on whether or not art degrees are worth it if you're a non-traditional student and entering the art world as a older individual. So if that's interesting to you, I will leave the link in the description below. So it was an aggressive goal. I was in my 30s when I started school, and that was late. By the time I got my 4-year degree, I was the same age or older than all but a couple of my professors. So I was a very non-traditional student, and it was really rewarding. So challenge yourself here, set big goals, things that are going to be hard, things that are going to take a lot of intermediate steps. An example I've got from my current list is, you can't see it in here, but well, first I'll tell you the goal. I want to upgrade my studio. I'd like to get a studio that isn't in my home. You can't see it right here, but this is a very tiny space. There's a workbench over on this side. My drafting table is right here. There's a small computer table, an easel, storage rack, and the backdrop is hanging in front of another storage rack. I can barely turn around in this space. In order to make art, I have to tear down all of my video gear. In order to do videos, then I have to tear down the art project that I was working on. It's a really constricted space, and it really makes it difficult to be efficient as an artist. And it helps, especially earlier in your career, to put out a lot of work. So the space is kind of holding me back. Well, the problem there is external space is expensive. I live in a city of about 1 million people, and certainly our real estate rates are a lot cheaper than a major metropolitan area like New York or London or any real big city, but it's still a lot of money. So I'm going to need a lot of intermediate steps. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to pay for that. And that's something we'll cover in the next section. And also, getting a bigger studio space is a little vague. My actual goal is very specific about what space I need for what processes. I'd eventually there are co-ops in town for other artists. I would love to be able to host that and help people that are in my position be able to get out of their houses at a reasonable rate. So there's a lot of components to that space, and it's going to be rather large. So it's a very specific goal on the actual sheet. I won't bore you with the details, though. After the long-term goals, we need to set midterm goals. And these are goals I target about a year, give or take. That's about the timeline that I want to accomplish these in. And a lot of these come from the long-term list. They're like supporting actors for the things that are in the long-term list. And frequently, when I'm looking at my long-term list, I look at other people that have been successful at doing similar things. One example I like for my studio is several of the people that I follow on YouTube started out in either apartment or bedroom offices, and that was where their studio was. A great number of them have moved out of that space into dedicated studio space. So there is a precedent for that. And I watched all their videos on how they did it. And that kind of helped me break down the path forward and come up with ideas on how to accomplish it. A lot of these goals can still be broken down into shorter term goals. We still have another tier of goals that are shorter in term that we're going to talk about here in a second. And then I have to-do lists that are also broken down into 1 week and then daily that we'll talk about in the next video. And one thing to remember here is while the long-term goals needed to be stretch goals, these should be achievable. We want to inspire ourselves, not overwhelm ourselves. So these should be things that we think we can actually accomplish that help build to that larger goal. There are two examples that I really like from my own list, and they support the long-term goal that I mentioned earlier. One is getting to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and the other is getting to the point where I can monetize my YouTube channel. And those don't seem to relate too much to an art studio, but they do. Studio space, like I mentioned before, is expensive. And in my experience, the art world is very sporadic in income. I've been lucky to get some big projects where I did make a decent amount of money on art commissions or big projects. I'm doing a video project right now that's bringing some money into the studio, and that's wonderful. But I've also experienced long droughts where I've gone a year without selling anything or getting a commission or doing anything that really brought money in. I think that's pretty typical. I think most artists don't have a real linear sales history. We have a big opening, we sell a ton of stuff, and then it's a while before that opportunity comes up again. So in theory, if you can monetize YouTube, you start creating a sustained income flow. And I like teaching. So this isn't a big stressor for me. I like showing other people how to do what I do. I like sharing. I kind of hope to build community, not only online, but also locally. So this is a good fit for me if I can get it monetized. So if I can get it to the level where it's bringing in enough money to help pay for that studio, then maybe it's an opportunity to move forward from there. So now that we have our midterm goals, the next tier is my quarterly goals, which sounds awfully similar in length to the midterm goals. And they are. But the reason why we're going to a quarter of the year instead of just leaving the whole year goals in is a year isn't an incredibly long time, but it's long enough to let things that you don't want to do slide. And one of the struggles I had before I built my own system was I come up with what looks like realistic goals, and then I do the easy ones and the ones that are exciting to me, and I kind of blow off the harder and longer term and more involved things, and particularly things that I wasn't wanting to do in the first place but needed to be done. And then you get to the end of the year and it's a mad panic to try to get everything done, and generally I never quite got some of the important things done. So a 1/4 time limit gives us a little more accountability, keeps us a little more focused on getting things done because we know that clock is ticking. And again, this list is going to have a lot of things that build to the medium and long-term list. But also I put things like tax season is coming up here in the United States. So I need to do my taxes. That's not really building to a goal. It's just a law and I have to do it. So it's on my list because I need to remember to do it. Last year, I had to pay an accountant to do it because I kind of blew it off to the last minute. And between me and my wife, we don't have the easiest taxes, and I find it super stressful. So that cost me a lot of money last year. So that's on the goal list for the 90 days. And some examples from my own list, and these support the medium-term goals that support my long-term goals that we've already discussed. I want to keep on trying different kinds of content and see what resonates with you as a viewer and try to build a channel that has value. All of the things that I talk about, I like talking about. So it's not a stretch for me to create more content along those lines. But if there's nobody there to watch it, it doesn't help. So right now I'm experimenting to see what audience is there for me. I've also challenged myself to upload every week. And this is the single hardest thing that I've put on a to-do list in a while. I didn't think it was going to be hard, but turns out if you don't talk to a camera a lot and you don't do a lot of editing, it's kind of a slow process. And while I'm building speed, getting these out once a week has been a challenge, but so far, so good. And the last thing that I've been doing to try to build to those goals in my midterm list is talking to a camera every day. I worked at a camera store for 6 years after my career in tech, and I helped a lot of people set up YouTube setups. I helped a lot of people set up video and photo setups. The one thing I didn't do is spend time looking at a lens. And I really struggled. There's about 6 videos that I recorded that nobody's ever going to see because they were terrible. And daily practice is helping me get better and better. So that builds to the midterm goals, that build to the long-term goals of having a studio space and being able to make art efficiently and do the things that I want to do. Now that we've discussed the 3 tiers, a couple of thoughts. One, in our long-term goals and really all of our goals, it's tempting to maybe dream a little bit more than we plan. There's a difference between goals and dreams. Dreaming to be a billionaire or maybe an astronaut if you're not a young scientist, there are things that are probably out of our capability to get to. And it's fun to sit around and dream, but that isn't really motivating. So we want to set stretch goals. We don't want to set dreams. Another kind of thought as we're getting to the end of this video is I used to really get distracted easily away from my goals. And the way that I figured out how to deal with that, and I mentioned that I was going to talk about this at the beginning, is creating external accountability. In my 30s, I decided I was a little heavier than I wanted to be, a little more out of shape than I wanted to be, and I needed a big goal. So I decided I was going to climb the highest mountain in Colorado, which at the time was measured as the second highest in the contiguous United States. There's some debate whether it or Mount Whitney are higher. It's a mountain called Mount Elbert in Colorado near Leadville. And I knew I was going to need some preparation for that. So instead of trying to do it solo and fearing that I was going to get distracted, I enlisted some friends to come along. And it's a lot easier to stay on track when there's other people that are just as excited as you are about the project. I had friends that when I didn't feel like going out and going for a 5-mile jog or going out and doing some aggressive hiking one day, they'd call me and say, hey, we're going. We need to get ready for the mountain. So I lost a ton of weight, got into really good shape, and my friends were there the entire time. So I had external accountability, and that really helped me get to my goal. That mountain was very tough. I was in probably the best shape of my adult life, but still mountain climbing is hard. And it was a lot of fun. So having external accountability by having friends involved really helped me. So if you can incorporate that into your plan, I find it super useful. And if not that, then find some other way to hold yourself accountable and motivate yourself to continue to hit the goals. Because some of these projects, if they take years, it's hard to stay on track. Another thing to talk about is weighing new opportunities versus old goals. There's a risk if you hold on to old goals that when new things present themselves that might be better, if I don't allow myself to consider them, then maybe I'm passing up things that I shouldn't be passing up. On the other hand, if every time a new opportunity comes along, I change gears, I may never get to any goal because I'm constantly distracted. And that's something that I've struggled with myself. So there's not a bit of guidance I can give you on this. You just need to be suspicious of new opportunities and ask yourself, what's the better thing here? Do I want to continue on the path that I've invested so much time in? Or is it time to shift gears? It's hard to make those calls. I'm pretty dedicated to the long-term goals on my list, but I can't say that some great opportunity coming along might not get me to shift gears, and that's okay. I wouldn't do it all the time. Those long-term goals are important, and that's really what we want to drive to. A final thought here. This works really well for me, but it may not work for you. I struggled with systems from people that had great authority in creating systems, and I believe that their systems work for a lot of people, but they didn't work for me. So if there's ideas here that you like, borrow them. If you like the whole plan, use the whole plan. If you don't like any of it, hopefully you learn something and you can find a way to motivate yourself to get to big things. Not all plans work for all people, but this does work for me. I've achieved some large things. I'm tracking very well to other large things. And this has been a great source of motivation and happiness for me. Next week, hopefully, if I stay on track, will be the second part of this, which covers to-do lists. And that's where we actually do the work. And I found that another place where I used to struggle, and I think I've got some good information coming up for you. So stay tuned, that's coming. If you like this video and found it useful, please like and subscribe, please comment, and we will see you next week. Good luck with reaching your goals.